I don't know. Let me see how I can do. Oh, my video. Okay, here we go. Okay.
Hi.
Hi, Devin.
Oh, it's so nice to meet you, Christina. How are you?
I'm great. I'm like fangirling. I'm like so excited about this meeting.
Please, I'm excited to meet you. And look at your gris, rouge, noir. Oh, it's so exciting. That's
I'm,
awesome.
I'm at school. I'm gonna have to be on my phone because our school blocks Zoom.
Hilarious.
Yeah, so I'm on my phone.
Well, no worries there.
Gonna take notes as well.
Of course, no worries. And I'm recording this too. So if you want, I can send the call to you as well.
Okay.
Yeah, no worries. I'll send it to the same email address that you used to sign up with this. And
Yes.
so I saw that before you got on here, I was looking to see what we're gonna chat about. And I mean, I hope it's cool with you that we're starting a little early. I figured since you're here, like, why not? Like, let's get rolling.
Yeah.
Um, that you wanted to talk a little bit about units, which are my favorite things in the whole world. Like you hit me right in my sweet spot because that is my favorite thing to talk about, and with novel studies. So I was wondering, is it cool with you if with this recording, can I share it on YouTube after we're done? Because I think a lot of people have questions about this same topic.
Yeah,
What do you
sure.
think about that?
Sure.
Cool. All right, great. Well, then from this point on, I'm going to go ahead and share it. I'll edit this part
Okay.
out. Well, awesome. So, Christina, tell me about where you're teaching and what your classroom looks like right now. What's your model? What are you working with? What are your students like?
Okay. So as of now, I'm in Orlando at a gifted school.
Mhm.
So I started, this is my 13th year teaching. I started teaching French right out of school and taught all over the world. And then when I moved to Florida about 5, 6 years ago, um, I was like, I'm never gonna teach French again. Like I didn't feel like I was gonna be able to find something. So I started teaching. I taught first grade, I taught third grade, I taught fourth grade, just general ed. And then my principal, the school I'm at now is a fairly new school. This is the fourth year for it. And last year, my principal from my previous school, she moved to this school and she asked me if I would come over and teach. Like, so stoked about. So this school is second grade through eighth. So I'm teaching, I see my elementary kids, which I'm used to. In the past, I've only taught elementary school French. So I see my elementary school kids once a week and I see my middle schoolers every day. So the middle school is an elective. So right now I have beginning French and French 1, which in our district is 2 different things. And then next year we'll add French 2. So I have big groups of elementary kids and then my middle school groups are smaller. So my beginning has 6 kids and my French 1 has 10, which I had those same kids last year. So, yeah, it's a great sizes for my middle school group. Really was getting burnt out with, sorry, you might hear my students in the hallway, getting burnt out with how I was teaching. I always did a lot of comprehensible input and a lot of very engaging things in elementary school, but middle school was kind of new for me. So we do have like a CRM that we have to follow. They have an end of course exam. We have a textbook, but no one said you have to use the textbook. So last year was challenging. Obviously we were most of my kids were at home. I think all but 2 were at home. So that was its own challenge. And then just knowing how to expand things for middle school was a challenge for me. So that's kind of where I'm at. And then I discovered you and started delving into this comprehensible input a couple months ago. And have just really had my brain kind of, blown and started following a lot of different Liam Printer. I've been so into his podcast and a couple other podcasts, and just really getting good ideas and loving some things about CI. And then I also, on top of that, started reading who is it? not Zaretta Hammond, which I do want to read that book, but the one about social justice in the language classroom. You probably know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So then I
Is
was
it the
like,
ACTFL publication?
no, it's I'll look. It's on my Kindle. But
Yeah,
I started
send me that one.
once you know, you'll know the person that wrote it. But because I'm super into that too. Like I'm on my school cell team and like very attuned to that. And I was like, I wanted to bring a lot of social justice into my classroom. So I think that and my kids being gifted, like they need structure. My kids like want to know the overall unit. Like I like the idea of staying in a unit, having a topic, but I'm like seeing like all these people do like these cool social justice themes, like even they naming them cool things. And I was like, I can't get my head around this because like my next unit or what I have to cover next, which is, I don't even like, I'm dreading it, is like community vocab and like, what you're going to do at certain places and talking about the house. And like, I'm like, oh my God, but like, how can I make it cool and like put like maybe like a social justice spin on it, but also stay, what I need to do. And then also incorporate CI. I'm just getting like, the one day I couldn't even sleep because I was like, how it's like, I feel like I'm doing like 4 different things.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where I'm at right now. Just trying to get my head around what to do, what to even like structure the unit as, because what they're giving me, the district's giving me, like, I'm not going to do that. Like, it's like, it's crap. Like, I'm not. So, and I don't necessarily have to do it. It's just like, the framework and then like, so anyways, that's kind of where I'm at with these units and wanting to like fit everything in, but also wanting it to be engaging. And that's kind of where my question is. So
Gotcha.
yeah, I kind of made like a map of like what I still need to cover. And like, that was like the big thing was like community vocab. And I'm like doing so much of like the CI stuff that like you guys talk about. And like, I'm totally loving it, but I also like have to get through this other stuff. So I'm like trying to do both of it.
Oh yeah. Okay. Are you ready? Yeah. I have an answer for you.
Okay.
And it's a lot simpler than you think it is. What you're experiencing right now is what happens with a lot of people when you see people like us. I can't even believe that I'm part of this group now, but like people like us, because I used to be exactly where you are, sitting in your shoes, trying to figure out how can I make the stuff that I want to do in my classroom in, all 3 of the respects that you talked about. I want to do more engaging CI things. I want to talk about the stuff that my kids want to talk about too. And I also know that I have these things that I need to cover in my classroom. And on top of that, I'm working with a group of students, gifted students, who need certain elements, and it needs to work a certain way for them to really be able to dive into it. And like, gifted students, you're the expert in this. But the gifted students that I had, like, they're going to ask you exactly where everything's going, right? Like they want to see the pathway. So what you can do is one magical, simple word. It's not a lot of work and it will help you so much. It's called enduring understandings. Enduring understandings is a really fancy word for a way that you can contextualize what seems to be simple unit topics, something like community, and build out your entire unit around something that your students will take away, an understanding about the world that they will intrinsically take with them from learning the language in your unit. So it's better to kind of see it as an example. An enduring understanding is what your students will understand about the world after they're done your unit. If you're doing a community unit about housing, like an enduring understanding that comes to my mind immediately is that houses are not only different around the world, they will vary by geography and access to resources.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not saying, because something that can happen too in the social justice realm that I don't know, maybe you've experienced this, but you have to be careful with, is that we often want to teach a lot of things to our students and like put a lot of morals on them and a lot of worldviews on them, but it actually works better if you just lay out facts and they come to the conclusions on their own. So if you just lay out for them, I mean, you're working with a gold mine right here. Community vocabulary and houses is, and I don't know the rest of it, but I'm assuming that it has to do with like how people, you know, learn about their community, how they interact with each other, and where they live, maybe. So
Yeah.
there's, oh my God, there's so much you can do with that, right? There's so much you can do with that. And you could go into so many different realms of social justice with that, with, you know, all different realms. And you can go, this is where you get to have the freedom as the teacher, because so many times we want to figure out, I have this content that I have to teach, or I have the materials for it and I want to follow it, but how do I put my spin on it so that I'm excited to teach it, or also that I can talk about the things that I know I want my students to talk about, or help to put in that social justice that I know is immediate and necessary in my classroom. This is how you can do it. By using an enduring understanding, something like housing is different around the world depending on what people have access to and where they live. That simple statement removes a lot of stereotypes about people. It removes a lot of inaccurate worldviews and perceptions, as well as you can dig down into media portrayals of different places around the world. There's so many options that you have with that, with just that simple statement. And then the next question becomes, cool, because this is the question that I had when I first learned about this tool, is how do I really use that in the classroom? So this is how you can use it. You use it to select your topics. It's not a tool for your students. It's a tool for you. You can use that in order to select the right materials, the right lessons, or create or curate whatever you're doing. Because you asked me about novels too. This is a good way to know that you're selecting the right novels or using the right stories for your topic. So it moves your unit from, okay, I'm going to see if my students are able to communicate about their community. And that's the deliverable that you have to do in your French language classroom. But the next level that you can move into is, can we push the conversation further by looking at authentic videos that talk about, or even just show, housing and community in different areas of the world? And then what you can look at and assess just by either informally by the quality of the conversations that your students are having in class, or maybe even just, you know, like with first, second, and third graders, the things that they notice, because, you know, I have a kindergartner. I have no experience in the elementary school realm, but my kindergartner tells me things that he sees on TV, like what he notices about the houses and stuff like that. You can see whether that enduring understanding is starting to blossom, because you're keeping that in your head of, this is what I want my students to understand about the world once they're done with this unit. And it's probably going to take 9 weeks for that idea to form. But it's not a language goal. It is an enduring understanding goal. Do my students understand about the world that where people live is far more determined by access to resources, geography, you know, economy, SES, all that stuff. And you'll be able to craft a good sentence for this. I have a class on this. If you would like it, I can send you the YouTube link that shows you how to do this. This will help guide everything in your unit. And then when you have that enduring understanding of that, will help to bring any unit that you're doing, but especially the specific one about community, from this is what I have to teach to this is what I get to teach. And my students are going to understand so much more about the world in addition to just the language goals that they're getting, which, I mean, just language goals is not at all true. There's so much to that. You can also use something called, I really like, essential questions. And the essential questions are things that you ask your students to help get them to the enduring understandings. Essential questions are things like, what do houses look like around the world? How do people adapt to different environments around the world? How does the local culture impact where people live. Or, I mean, you can make them very, very simple. They don't have to be fancy or anything. It can also be things like, what do houses look like in my community? How are those houses different in different areas of my community?
Do you go over the essential questions with the kids, or is it just like for yourself to?
The essential questions are for these. This is different in that it's both for you and the students. I used to put the essential questions on the board, kind of like next, even if you do can do statements on your board, I used to put them next to the can do statements to ask them if they would know, maybe by the end of the week, if they were able to answer these. Usually I would use them in English though, because the whole point of these is that it contextualizes your unit in the real, quote unquote, real world. It puts the whole idea of this is why we're learning this, so that we can communicate with other people in our community who use a different language. And this is what we're trying to figure out about the world. And we're using language in order to navigate that.
That makes sense. Okay.
The reason that these things can be really helpful is because then it helps to carve out all of the choices that you might have in front of you of whether, let's say you're sitting in your chair for your prep tomorrow and you're thinking, okay, I have this community unit that I need to either create or curate things for. And you have a choice between, and you got 30 minutes. You have a choice between what you're going to look for. I can either, find songs that are going to teach them about housing vocabulary and how to interact with their neighbors in their community. And then I can also spend time looking for real videos of first, second, and third graders in a different community showing me around their house, because those exist on YouTube. You can find them. And then maybe even using different types of questions and helping them break down the vocabulary as they watch the YouTube video to see what they can pick out from it. So so an example for this too is what I did with a school unit is because, everybody has to do a school unit at some point, right? It's got to happen because you need school words in order to communicate in your immediate school environment. The essential question was, what does school look like in Francophone environments? So what I did was I just typed in to, like, YouTube is my favorite place to go to find materials for my classroom. And I would look for YouTube videos for like middle schoolers and high schoolers, actual middle schoolers that would give just like, this is my school, like bienvenue à l'école, like this is my school. And they would give little tours of their schoolroom. And I found one that was actually in Malaisie, in Malaysia, and it was a French language school, and a student was just taking a person around their school and touring them. And it was so different because they slept at school because it was a boarding school. They all wore uniforms and they were learning English and doing all these different kinds of things that just showed a very, very different school environment. And that fit into my essential question. Was like, oh, I know I got to use this resource because it helps my students to see the essential question of what do schools look like around the world. Like, I don't have to, instead of having to do like a whole slideshow of pictures that might take you 3 hours of finding schools around the world, you can just do 1 or 2 examples.
Right. So
what do you think of that? How does that help you?
Well, and when we're talking about that unit, that would be actually for my middle schoolers. So they have, a little bit more language usage. So, and plus I see them every day. So if I did a video like that, even if it took a couple of days, I would still have like a lot of time to do essentially something else. So that's another thing that, like, when I'm thinking about CI, like, it's kind of overwhelming because there's so much other things you can do, but like some of the stuff, like, I've tried and like, I'm not, I just can't do it. Like, like the story, creating, I was just like, it was too much for me. So like, I really like movie chats and that kind of thing, but is there anything else that I can do. And another thing that my gifted kids really need or want is like, they want grammar stuff. It's crazy because like I've tried to like not do as much grammar stuff or any grammar stuff at all. And my kids like want to know like the grammar rules because that's just how their brains work. So, and also like incorporating some of that stuff into it. You know what I'm saying? Like, is there like packets? Is there, I don't know, like what do you recommend to
Yeah.
make it a full unit?
Oh, totally get this. Okay. So something that happens a lot, like exactly what you're asking me is, do I have to dance on tables and like tell stories and do a skit every single day in
Right.
order to be a CI teacher? Hell no. Like I didn't do that because it's
Yeah.
exhausting. It's
Yeah.
exhausting. And I mean, to be frank, like there were so many other things going on and I had 170 students and I didn't have time to learn all of these new techniques and strategies. But I knew that this approach to teaching would work really well for my students because it's more about the approach than it is about the actual techniques. But you're exactly right that it's sometimes what happens is that there's a couple activities that work really well for everybody but there's a lot of activities that you have to have a lot of training in order to even get good at.
Yeah.
And then there's also things that just won't work for you, maybe even depending on like how you like to teach or your personality. And a lot of the people who teach about those types of things have been doing them for a really long time, like, like 5 or 6 years. And so I wouldn't even recommend going down that route until you want to, until that's like your vibe and you're ready for it.
Right.
What I used to do is I didn't do any of those types of things. I tried TPRS and I honestly, like, I know it works really well for people, but I hated it. I hated it. It was so much work for me. It was so much work and I didn't have any training on it. So like those of you who love TPRS, like get down with your bad self, but it wasn't for me. But so this is what you can do. Grammar is not the enemy. Grammar is a really valuable tool. The way that we need to reframe grammar as modern teachers is that grammar is not the end goal. What has happened is that somewhere along the line, grammar became the end goal.
Right.
Because it was so valuable. We thought that understanding the form and features and morphology of language would somehow put language in our heads. And we know that that's not true. Research has shown us in so many different ways that that's not true. But that's what our classes ended up being structured like. And that's for a bunch of different historical reasons we don't have time for here. But point of the story being that it doesn't mean that those things aren't really helpful and useful. They're just not the focus. So I would, of course, if your students are asking for it, they want it and it will help them. Like for brains like you and me, who are language teachers and we like these things, grammar, of course, helps us. It helps us to understand and contextualize what's going on. And especially if your students are like through like 6th through 8th grade, of course, they're going to want to know about it because they're going to want to understand what's happening. And not to mention that grammar feels a lot more like school. Like everything about it just feels like school. It feels, and like I'm a gifted kid and I was in a gifted program like my entire life. And this isn't true for everybody, but I know for me that, school for me was like like this is where I'm successful. And so studying grammar rules, like I used to do that like 11 o'clock at night while I was in college, even if it wasn't assigned to me, because it was just like a cozy blanket. I loved it. And I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of your gifted kids feel that way too, that they're like, this is concrete. I can study it and I can memorize it. And it feels good to bring it to my teacher and be like, I know this, let's move on to the next thing. Like, yeah, me and the kids in my gifted class used to love doing that. Be like, oh, hey, look what we learned and you didn't assign. Aren't we cool? Like, I'm sure that they love that and that makes them feel good. Right. And it helps them to learn on their own because a lot of gifted kids want to do that. Do it. Here's how you can do it. Teach grammar in a proficiency oriented manner where you give them a ton of context. So things like, hey, do you see how it works in this sentence? Hey, do you see, and inductive grammar presentations work really well for this, where it's like you guys get to be investigating, like you're looking at maybe like ER verbs. and you give them a bunch of ER verbs in different contexts. And you say, I bet you if I give you a bunch of ER verbs, because you already know how other types of verbs work, can you figure out what the endings are? Figure out the pattern. They would be all over that. It's just a different style where you and the students work it out together. It's called inductive grammar, and it's really fun for students too. Grammar's not bad. Grammar's just not the goal.
Yeah. Yeah. And my kids, I feel like a lot with the CI stuff, and I totally buy into it. Like I don't need to buy in. I totally do. But I feel like a lot of times, like they're used to getting A's on tests, and this isn't like necessarily how CI works. There's not going to be like this big fill in the blank grammar test, or I do have that. It's just a little part of whatever, I tried to do like a really authentic test, and they had a reading portion, and they had a listening portion, and a tiny grammar portion. And they were like kind of bummed out by some of their grades because they're used to just like plugging in, formulas or whatever. And so that's been something that I'm like trying to get their head wrapped around. And another thing about CI that I'm trying to like get my head wrapped around, great. I'll call him back, whoever it is, that I'm trying to get my head wrapped around is that, so I'm used to like trying to stay in the target language as much as I can. But a lot of like when I'm reading them, and correct me if I'm wrong about CI stuff, is like, say that they read something that they are kind of allowed or even expected to like tell me back in English what was the gist. So, but then I'm like, oh my God, we're using English a lot. And then I'm like stressed out because even though, yeah, they understood that whole thing, but like, we're using English. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Is it bad that like, is that what you're supposed to do?
No, that's perfectly fine, because your students are giving you evidence that they understand what's going on. And then you can progress them to a level later on you can push them later on to be like, can you try and maybe give me a little bit of what that is in French? And part of it too can be that you can ask students, I mean, every teacher is going to give you different answers for this, but I like to give students leveled responses on how much did you understand of that. And some of them will give you a few words, and some of them will be able to tell you what the entire sentence meant. And that's really, really cool. Like that's a way that they can feel success at a point. The reason I like it, and I wouldn't worry about how much English you're speaking, is because you're in a French 1 class. Like like French 2 is really when your students are going to start to be able to speak back to you. Like if you go back to a lot of what's going on at like novice low and novice mid, it's I can answer a familiar question on familiar topics with a short memorized phrase. So they need to know a lot of short memorized phrases before they're ready to respond back to you. And they also need to know a lot of questions before they're ready to respond back to you. It takes a ton of time. It takes a ton of time. And so it's okay. I have zero problem with that. I mean, your job is to provide all of the target language, and their job is to tell you when they understand and when they don't, and give it their absolute freaking best. And it sounds like they are. So I wouldn't really lose any sweat or sleep over that.
Okay. And then my question about novel studies. So I don't have any readers, but I just did a big donors choose and got funded for all these readers that I got on Fluency Manage. I'm so excited. So they're going to be coming sometime before break or after break. So I got probably 3 different books, class sets, and just wondering like how people format their novel studies. Like, I kind of want to do one with them before I start like the free voluntary reading. Like I want to, talk it with them so that they kind of know how to do it on their own. But just in general, like how you do that.
So that's like a whole course in itself. It's a very large question, but I'm trying to give you some guiding points to go with. Novels are great. I'm so glad that you got them from Fluency Matters because they're the best. With Fluency Matters, you have the entire toolkit like at your feet. At your feet. Did you get physical readers or did you get digital ones?
No, I'm going to have physical.
Okay. So I would first, since it's your first time going through readers with your class, is read a few pages with your class and
Okay.
prep them first too with how to read in a different language, because they're going to try and read it like it's a book in their first language, and they're going to be very shocked that it does not feel like that. So the same exact way that you would approach reading a paragraph in a new language is the exact same way that you should approach reading a book in another language, and go really, really, really slow. Some activities that work really well for this is when you read and stop every couple of sentences and do what you're doing. And I mean, I wouldn't feel bad at all about relying a little bit on them giving you stuff in English, because you want to check and make sure that they understand what's happening. You can go back and add some French rejoinders for them later, about things like le personnage dit and things like that. Like you can give them more of that later, but I would layer that on later. So as you're reading, ask them things like, what's happening right now? Can you tell me who's the main character? What's their name? What are they like? Or what do they look like? What are they doing? And do a few days of just getting used to reading in a new language and building good reading habits.
Oh my God. You know, when it's just so funny, Devin, I just got an email that the package arrived.
Boom.
Isn't that random? As we're talking about.
Yes.
So, okay. So
but that's like, there's so many different avenues that you can go down with that. What I did with my high schoolers is we did a little bit of reading every day.
Okay.
A little bit of reading every day. And then I did like gallery walks with them. We did partner activities. And then we did a couple chapter quizzes every week about them. But there's like, we don't have time to go through like all the different things that you could do with that. But oh my God, there's so many.
That, I mean, you know, I just like professional development. So do you have a course on it, you said, or?
So, all right. Well, so since you're asking about it, there's actually one of the things, like I know we're actually about to hit our time frame here. So if you are cool with it, can we move into, I have a couple questions for you since especially since you're asking about this here. I'm building something new for world language teachers. And I think part of it will help you with what you're looking for with your CI readers. Okay. Specifically with your CI readers, I did in this new program, I have a course called Practical Proficiency. And in that course, we do a whole in-depth class on what to do with novels and readers with a guest teacher, AC Quintero, who writes her own novels. Yeah, and she's amazing. And she walks through with us exactly what to do, especially if you've never done a novel before, and how you can start, especially if you're starting virtually, and how you can work with, because we recorded it last year, how to work with different environments and different levels, and students who are maybe very comfortable with reading and students who are reluctant readers, like the whole gambit of different things that you can do. And but that's a portion of the whole big course. So what is offered in this course, which is really exciting, is the whole foundational knowledge that you would need for all the different pieces of your classroom at different moments as you walk through the year. Because as you hit to different points in your journey through proficiency, you hit different snags, right? Like, oh, I want to start teaching with novels. I'm going to need some knowledge on that. I need resources. I'm going to need some moments for that. So, but I also found that with a course, what ends up happening is that, I don't know if you've ever felt like this, but one of the frustrations that I know that teachers experience, that I've experienced, is that it feels like more work at the end of the day. It feels like you have like an extra master's class that you're coming home to at the end of the day. So What I'm creating and releasing on December 26th is a membership that is month to month instead. So you get pieces
Oh,
of the course that I think would match with what's going on in your year. And then since you're part of the membership, you'd also get to request what resources you need for that month. So for example, you're doing a community unit. You can request, like, I need community resources and I need community authentic resources for this month. Can you make me something?
awesome.
So my question for
Wow.
you though
Okay.
is, where do you get your resources when you need stuff for your classroom that are specifically CI based? What's working for you right now? And what would you like to see if, if money wasn't an object, if you weren't worried about things like whether your admin would say yes or no, or any of that stuff, like whether you could get a donor's choose, like if you were in this program, what would you like to see in it? What would be helpful to you?
Well, right now, the only place that I know to go for anything is TPT.
Hmm.
So, and like, I look on like Martina Beck's site for like
Mhm.
ideas, but like really everything just points back to TPT.
Mhm.
I like pre-made resources that are like already ready,
Mhm.
I what else? I like this, what you were saying about like the step by step, like, this is what you would do for a novel study, like that works well. Like I need like the concrete ideas. And what else? Those are probably like the two biggest things. So like pre-made resources and like really like almost like step by step for things.
Mhm.
Was there something else that I missed?
No,
Is that what
you got it exactly. So if you're going mostly to TPT for your resources, it also sounds too like you're looking for more information on like how to do specific aspects of proficiency teaching, right?
right,
So where
right.
where do you usually go to get that information?
I spent a lot of time on the comprehensible classroom.
Yeah.
In a couple like um there's a couple like it's called Frenchify that I like always use if I'm going to use a movie chat. Like I tend to buy hers or whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
I haven't like, and then I listened to some podcasts, but I'm still new and trying to figure out all of this. So those are, I take anybody mentions on a podcast, I like hurry up and follow them on Instagram. Just like
I
like
love
AC can take
podcasts.
everybody, even if they're Spanish teachers, like I don't care, whatever. So social media, I guess too, would be another thing that I use a lot. And I never had a Facebook before, but I just started a teacher Facebook only because I wanted to like connect with people and get ideas, which sometimes honestly it's more overwhelming. Like when I like, if I ask a question on Facebook, sometimes it's like overwhelming getting like a million different, like it's nice and like everyone's wants to, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I like, if you like made units that were like already made or like, gave just what we talked about, like overall, like that gave me so many ideas. And like, oh, these are like 3 ideas you could do with this unit. And I know you're into like the social justice stuff too. So like
Mm-hmm.
anything with that, ideas with that would be cool too.
Okay. That's really helpful for me. All right. So I have one last question before we go, because we're hitting our time here.
Okay.
Part of the what's going to be different about it that's not really in any other community and that I would like to try out is especially to hit that point that you mentioned, because I feel this way too, and I know other teachers do, is that Facebook is a cesspool, A, and B, when you go into like your personal Facebook, and then when you go into teacher groups, they're so helpful, but they are overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
And you never really know if what other people are trying are going to work for you. And I don't know about you, but I really miss the community that you get from being in an in-person conference and talking to other people about their lessons and bouncing ideas off of people that you can see. So I am creating another piece of the membership where you would get access to a monthly meeting of just French teachers who are CI teachers as well in the trenches with you, so that you could, and it would be a Zoom meeting every month. And, we pick a time, and I'm going to call it the Practical Proficiency Network. and you would be able to get in the meeting and talk to other teachers about what you're teaching. Do you have ideas? Do you have some videos that you can share with me, and tap into the collective network of teachers, of people who also, though, like, like free advice on Facebook is exactly that. It's free advice on Facebook. But when you're in a community of people who are there and like, this is our monthly time to share ideas, you get incredible value from that.
Right.
So
Right.
we do it a lot in all different realms of our lives for other reasons. And I thought, why not do this for teachers? Like, make a paid community of people who are like, I'm ready to put skin in the game and really get down to business and get advice that I can really use, and curated advice, from like 5 or 10 people that I know have really good ideas.
That would be awesome, though, because like, honestly, like this chat with you today might have been like the first time this year that I had like anybody to like in person talk to about anything.
Yeah.
I mean, like I'm a team of one. I'm the only language teacher in my school. I'm one of the only French teachers in the district. Like, there's not like, so it's like, it's just, it's isolating, really is what it is. So, that would be like huge for someone like me, that would be a really big deal for me, and like really motivational, and like something I would be totally into.
Okay, good. That's because I was thinking about, I was like, would people be into this as much as me? Because I love seeing somebody's face and talking to them, even if it's over Zoom. I know it's not, quite in person, but it feels so much more in person, and I don't know about you, but also, sometimes with the teachers that you have around you, like, other teachers are awesome, but you also want teachers who think and want the same things as you and have the same teaching styles as you. It's not necessarily about the same quality. It's that, like, I used to teach with quality teachers all day long, but they might not have the same teaching style as me.
Right.
Like,
right.
if you're all coming from the same person, the same leader, they probably have the same teaching style as you. They probably care about the same things that you do.
Right. Well, and if we would be in a group like that, I would assume that we all kind of have the same style.
Yeah. Have the same style, have the same goals, care about the same things.
Right. Right. Yeah, that would be really, all of that sounds really awesome. Like, I'm super excited about all of that. And just like have access to you, like it's like a mentor, like, we don't, and another aspect of it is like, my admin, they assume that I kind of have it all together. Like, I've been teaching for 13 years, and obviously, like, everybody needs a mentor. Like, everybody needs somebody, and like, so that would be just like awesome, just to have some people like with more experience than me and in everything in general, just to bounce ideas off of. Just means a lot. So this meant so much to me.
Thank you so much. I'm really glad that we could get to connect. It was so nice to finally meet you. I've seen your name like on my list, and I know we've interacted a little bit on social, so it's been nice to actually meet you.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I like watch all your videos, and like, so anyways, you're one of my go-tos.
Thanks so much. That like means the world to me.
And thank you so much for allowing me to talk. I got some good ideas. I'm going to kind of process everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do want to, I have to start thinking about next unit. Right now we're doing, what's that thing that everyone's doing? I'm doing Noel Madness. So like with the commercials and like super cute, super fun. But like, I'm like, okay, next semester, like, what am I doing? Like, I don't want. So, okay. So you're saying
exciting.
that's going to be out in a couple weeks.
Yeah. So it's, there's going to be a course attached to it that you would have access to pieces of it. But it's in a monthly membership model, meaning that it would be a certain amount of money each month. And then you could kind of like jump in, jump out, what works for you, what doesn't, but it's resources, access to community, access to a monthly meeting with me, masterclass with me on the topics that people request, but I also have a few lined up, and the community meeting with other teachers.
Awesome. Well,
and the resources will be determined by y'all. Like, you guys get to pick what you want. Like, I have some ideas for what I want, but I honestly put a pause on my French 1 curriculum because like all of it was designed by me and like what I wanted to teach. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I need more input from the community for what is really necessary in a French one curriculum.
Awesome. I'm excited about that. I will be looking out for that.
It's coming out December 26th, and you're going to start seeing emails about it around next week so that you're prepared for it and you can see like whether it works for you or not.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. And
I super exciting.
Yay.
It's like, heard anything like that. So, and hopefully I can get my admin to pay for it. They usually like anything I ask because they know it's like hard to find, like, especially like in our district, it's hard to find PD for like French or language teachers. So like pretty much anything I asked, or like, you know, if I want PD on this or whatever, because I just did the World Language Summit too.
Yes. Yeah, that was awesome.
I bought like the over break. I probably watched maybe 6. I mean, it's a lot. There's like a ton of it.
I haven't watched them all yet. There's a lot that I have to go through.
Yeah. I figured over a break I will have time. So anyways.
Well, okay. So the next idea is, there's only be 30 seconds, but I'm, as part of your being able to access it, and one of the emails that I'm going to send you is I'm going to write a pre-made admin letter template, because I want people to ask their admin to pay for it. Because I hear over and over again that, you know, I pay for my own PD. And my answer is then, did you ask? Like, did you ask? And, you know, I know how hard it is to go to your admin and ask. And I think it'll be so much easier if you have something already pre-made for you. So I might shoot that letter your way and see if it sounds good. But
yeah, I mean, I always am like this, like I'm once again asking for money, but it's always like, I mean, come on, it's a PD, and they know, most admin know that language PDs are not easy to come by. You know, we don't get the district usually has a ton of PDs for gen ed teachers in general, and we just don't. So usually that admin are more willing than people think when it comes to our kind of stuff.
I'm so glad that you said that, because I think that too. I think that we just need to be comfortable with asking and comfortable with hearing the word no, because we're going to hear no. It's okay sometimes.
Right.
Yeah. Right. All right. Well, I won't keep you any longer. I'm really excited about it and to get it out there in the world.
Excited too. Yeah, send me over anything. I'll, you know, if you want me to look at it and see, and I can even show my admin and be like, do you think that this is good? I mean, like my
that would be
amazing.
Infinitely helpful to me. It's because I want to make sure that that it's easy for principals to say yes to, because, you know, I do purchase orders and all the things, like that's really easy for me. So I might in this next week just send you a quick admin letter to go through, forward it to your principal, and see if that's something that works really well for them.
Okay. I will.
Thank you. I would sincerely appreciate that. But more importantly, thank you so much for your time today and for asking all your great questions. I can't wait for other people to see this, because I know it's going to help them out too.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Devin, for having me.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for being a part of my community. I appreciate you. You're doing amazing things for your kids. I can tell that you're a great teacher and that they're so lucky to have you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Bye. Have a good rest of your day. Enjoy Noel Madness. That sounds fun.
I will. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.